Hello world and welcome to the program. This is Alex and my weekly episode of Ukrainian Unleashed, a podcast where you'll get along with Ukrainians and also observe how the global scenery impacts Ukrainian society in these exciting times. We speak about events, trends, individuals and lifestyles of modern Ukrainians. So let's jump right in. In today's episode, you will hear a compelling story from the guy who all of a sudden decided to completely change his life and step forward in uncertainty, which in the end led him towards peacefulness and joy. He is my ex-colleague and a nice guy. His name is also Alex, and after working 12 years in the same company, he got a job on a scientific expedition ship traveling around the globe. So here is his story of Dreamcatcher, full of true emotions and revelations. Hope you'll enjoy it and maybe will get inspired to make up your mind about anything you dream of. Take a listen and thanks for being here with me.
Я вопросы, честно, не готовил, поэтому я просто хотел спросить у тебя,
Well, I haven't prepared any questions, as I just wanted to ask you for the beginning, how did you come with such a decision to change your life? From the job you were doing almost all your life, you were in charge of information technologies, right? Yes, I've been working as IT engineer for many years in one company and I pretty much loved everything except being in the office. I've been spending a lot of time in the office and watching how summers changed to winters and vice versa. So each time this drove me crazy and I was sitting there and spending all the day long at work and didn't have any big money which would have been sufficient for traveling or making big purchases in my life, which also could have brought some joy to my family. And I realized that I had to change something a long time ago, but because of my traits of character, that was hard for me to venture upon a new step. Maybe because my zodiac sign is Taurus. Yeah, this can be a nice standby for this matter. Well, so you've been working in the same company for the last 10 years, as far as I know. Yes, given what LinkedIn says, even 11 years and 8 months. Wow, so it's almost 12 years. And then, as I understand, you were already looking for a chance to travel somewhere and to change your scope of activities. In the beginning, I was looking to change my scope of activities, even in the same company. I decided to take part in e-commerce and to combine IT and sales. My two projects in the company have been accomplished, to my mind, and I created the IT department which was left to my colleague, and he continues to run this division even now, and I also launched an e-commerce store which during the current crisis brings profits to the company CEOs. Cool. How did the idea to put out to sea and to make a trip around the globe pop up in your mind? And did you know that it worked well? Have you been searching for something similar to this, or this was unexpected and you accidentally catch up with this change? I wasn't sure about my competencies, about my English language skills, and even didn't know that such a position of IT officer even exists on the ship. This conscious way took 1 year, during which I learned English and prepared for my job interview. I learned navigation systems, satellite systems for having the chance to fit this job offer. Well, I wanted to get there as I knew it would have given me a chance to travel. I didn't know this would have been a round-the-globe trip. I thought this might have been a severe Antarctic journey where I might have spent all the summer in cold, extreme conditions, set up Instagram to reach Japanese passengers. But the Antarctic is not the worst scenario. This is also exciting, but as far as I already know, looking ahead, you haven't been to the Antarctic yet, haven't you? No, but this is something I put aside for the future. I was told that if I liked to try, they'd send me to the most difficult ship where I'd need to communicate a lot. What is the main purpose of your ship traveling around the globe? Is this a sort of scientific research or touristic trip? Mostly it is touristic and educational, as people study on board and get more acknowledged with this world. Who are the main passengers? I can realize the crew members, but whom all these for? Well, this is an American company and American students, but they are of different nationalities from different countries of Latin America. Europe, the USA, Japan, Germany, and Mexico.
Экипаж большой у вас был?
Did you have a big cast of crew members? Yes, almost 200 people. Almost 200 people. Wow. They are also from different countries, right? Yes, an immense variety of nationalities as well. A lot of guys from India, very positive and professional. You know, I really couldn't have imagined having such support from foreign peers, but I have got it. Our mentality when working on shore is kind of strange for foreigners, as someone could trick you or rob you. Business relationships can get corrupted. But here we had a clear community of people who are paid with a good salary and don't need to look aside. They don't chase on somebody to take their position, and everyone is smiling. You know, when I got back, honestly speaking, a few weeks I couldn't have realized what was wrong. I was driving and looking at the people. I was thinking about what was wrong, as I've been living here for such a long time, but I still was confused. And I got it a week after. Our people are very upset and depressed. You see them crossing the road on the traffic light, and their faces are grey, sad. There are no people who would have been standing and smiling at somebody, even all alone. But there, everyone is smiling, and this is not something we can call a fake smile. As a lot of people here in Ukraine say that this is not a true feeling, this is something artificial, right? I think that there people are enjoying their lives more permanently. Well, yes, they are very positive and have a different attitude, and I wasn't afraid to ask for help. Everyone would help you. That moment when you heard about an offer to get on board of a ship and travel around the globe, what were you thinking, and were you frightened? Or were you taking it for granted? Well, I can't say that I'm so cold-hearted, so I could have taken it for granted, but I realized that this was a chance for me. I don't know how would you take it, but 1 year before I had a conversation with my astrologist, and he said that by the end of last year I would have been working abroad. You have all the preconditions for working around the world, he said. So you won't stay here, he claimed. That time I was too skeptical about that. I thought that this man might have felt my desires and seen that I wouldn't mind doing that. Because it was kind of obvious that I was an IT specialist looking for moving abroad. But I couldn't have realized that this would be that way, so of course I wasn't cold-hearted at all. I was looking forward to this chance, but I also was very scared. So I talked myself into it only by talking to myself that the worst thing that might have happened would be going back home. So I realized that you need to dare in this life. If you won't dare, nothing changes. I stayed for about 1 year at my previous job, and I already knew that I would leave, and I would leave for this position on the ship. Again, I didn't realize it till the moment I stepped on the gangway where I put myself in. I still was looking at all that like through the mirror. I took private lessons of English language. I was studying all the technical systems which could have been a part of my job on a ship. All that took me 6 months, and in the end I was again invited to the job interview, which I successfully passed that time. And after 2 months I stepped on board.
Собственно, еще через 2 месяца оказался на борту судна.
Well, after 2 months, I completely got used to my new life. It was hard to get used to the schedule, as the schedule is very tough. You have no days off, you have a couple of breaks during the day, but at night you can be woken up anytime by a radio set call to be engaged with the important job to do. Tell me about what countries have you been at, what continents you visited, and what was the duration of your trip. What was the most memorable, enjoyable, and impressive to you? I've been tripping for 5 months. We've been taking our trip from Amsterdam, Netherlands, then visited Gdansk, Poland.
Средиземное море. Я уже на тот момент
Then after this, we've entered the Mediterranean Sea, and by that time I've already spent 3 weeks on board, and I was keen on walking by feet anywhere.
У меня был сложный проект.
Then we got off in Cadiz, where I had a difficult project to handle. We had to change the satellite antenna, so we had no time for having fun or walking around the city. But anyway, I managed to run through the city and it was beautiful. Previously in my life I've been traveling, but not so much, and basically in Europe. Italy, Germany, France. But did you want to go to the different parts of the world, like Asia, Africa, America, or this was something you haven't been a big fan of? You know, this could have been at the back of my mind, but wasn't something I'd planned to do. So all that was something interesting and strange to me. I even don't know how to explain this. Probably a real joy, but I tried to take control over it because I wasn't a tourist, so I could have seen all the countries mainly at night. So this was against my sleep when I walked out for a walk in the strange city. But sometimes I was lucky to get on shore a few hours before the end of my shift. So then after Cadiz we moved to Africa, Morocco and Casablanca. Okay, then after American continent you moved to South Africa and crossed the Atlantic Ocean, as by what you've told me, right? About the Neptune Day and crossing the equator. Yes, these marvelous marine traditions, a celebration of Neptune Day. Passengers had their celebration and we had ours, but thanks God I wasn't put into the engine oil, as everyone had the intention to put me. This was an interesting and incredible journey, to travel across the ocean. I don't even know what I could compare this to. I have never had such an experience in my life. You know, here I think I lived it up with such joy because I was never afraid of death and waves and deep water. Even when we had ship's motions, I liked it and got high every second of it. This put out all the stress and I'm feeling like I became much calmer during this journey. When you reached South Africa, what was the most touching for you? I like the feeling that now in my hometown there was winter and snowing with raining. Well, last year we didn't see much snow, and here the temperature is plus 35 Celsius degrees in the shadow, really hot weather. We could have gone outside and unhooked our working wear to catch some sun. This view when you are approaching Salvador from the ocean and you see the skyscrapers are growing up on the horizon and you realize that there is a huge difference between how we see it now and how the Spanish people saw it when they first came to these lands 500 or more years ago. But now that was just indescribable feeling and we all were staring at this from the deck, even those who were there many times. I didn't go deep into the city, all where I could have moved was a sea coast, and there is a lot of Spanish architecture on top of the hills, saved from colonial times. Okay, so we have Salvador, Costa Rica, Trinidad and Tobago, Ecuador, Brazil, right? Yes, Panama. Panama Channel, you haven't mentioned this one yet. Share some impressions from there. Is this an immense creation? Well, this is a miracle and it impresses so much. In particular, those floodgates are nearly 100 years old. They are gigantic and work very precise. And they change the level of water in the lake, but I don't remember its name. When you enter from the Atlantic Ocean side, they are gradually rising the level of water in the Panama Channel. Then after that you are proceeding towards the Pacific Ocean and the level of water is dropping. Wow! And they are building another new unprecedented channel where container carriers are passing out. They were so gigantic that even obstructed the sun. How long does it take to pass through the channel? The whole day. So it took the whole day only for passing through the Panama Channel? Yes, it did. We entered at 5 p.m. I felt it when I woke up. By the way, here are some tips about the schedule. When you are on a ship, you get used to waking up early. For me that was 5:30 a.m. Then taking a shower, breakfast and team meeting at 7:30 a.m. And this is just amazing. After this you get to the deck and it's still dark outside. I walked up to my antennas, my zone of responsibility, the highest deck, only antennas and the sky where you can stand still, meditate and then get to work in a peaceful mood. Given our Ukrainian mentality, I was struggling to understand when I couldn't find some specialists. Electricians, for example, anytime I needed them. My colleagues were saying, "What do you want from them? It's 10:30 a.m., coffee break. Nobody will answer you until it's 11 a.m. And then I understood that this is correct work ethics, when you have strict and all-known timing to keep on with. So when you cross the Panama Channel, you were looking at getting to North America, right? Yes, we got to San Diego where the cruise was over and the ship headed towards Mexico. We had 2 weeks of preparations for new passengers and the celebration of Christmas. How did you like the US? I understand that you got there after you pretty much saw things, but was it a happy moment for you? I wasn't sure I would make it actually, but I got lucky and was approved for getting on shore. And I had an impression that this wasn't a strange country for me, that this was actually my home country. I was moved by emotions that I really stand on the US grounds, and this was tremendous. So this was the end of the year, Christmas, New Year, and then you also set foot in Hawaii, Honolulu, right? Yes, I was in Honolulu in January after New Year. Costa Rica was before and Honolulu after, as the first port after San Diego. We left San Diego the 4th of January and then came to Honolulu on January 12th. It was rainy and windy, very chilly and cold weather. It wasn't the way I would have imagined to picture this paradise place. When you see it in movies and cartoons, this is always a dreamland, a sunny side with hectic tropical forests and bizarre architecture originated from the beginning of the 20th century. And this was really it. Those monolith buildings were mixed with nature and simplicity. There were a lot of birds and different creatures in the city, and I heard them all. People were not so numerous, and the birds, one I remember, was very colorful and small. She was jumping right next to me without being scared of me. And you watch all that, and it looks marvelous, like a real paradise in the middle of nowhere. I found this legendary Waikiki beach. I got there with a few packages from 7-Eleven and sat on the sand. A policewoman was looking at me strangely, but I was sitting on the sand and enjoying the moment. I was trying to take it up because you never know if you get back there and see all that beauty. Okay, tell me in cultural sense, how did this journey affect you? What kind of personal revelations did you have, and did you even have any? I've realized one thing. Our world is not small, it's really huge and unmeasurable. But due to the new technologies, it's possible to set up the connections and transportation to any location. These moments, when you travel for a long time distance, they eliminate the borders in your mind, and you don't feel tightened up to a particular place in Ukraine, for example. Before that, I couldn't have imagined living elsewhere except Odessa. I didn't want it, I wouldn't do it, but now I realize that I'll move on to another place, I can live anywhere. Working at sea, I can really live anywhere. I can sell my apartment here and buy a bungalow in Costa Rica, why not? People are free and there must be a freedom of movement. That's what we need to achieve. Of course, money makes things easier, but we need to travel all around the globe, around this planet, as much as we can. Because staying in one place is not interesting. You grow up emotionally, communicate with people, understand that there are no boundaries in nationalities, the color of skin, and any lifestyles. All this is a delusion left in our post-Soviet countries. I've passed through a significant change in my soul and mind. The aftermath of it could be the fact that now I don't really worry about material things which preoccupied my mind before this trip. There are no high profits at sea, no millionaires. But there is a balance when you get paid and can afford a respectful living. Here in Ukraine, businessmen unfortunately don't realize it. They keep a big distance between themselves and their employees, and they don't understand what people need for a good living. That's why people are often stressed out, they are underestimated. What plans do you have for the future? I understand that in this global situation we are undergoing now, it's very hard and premature to talk about it, but would you like to get back on board and to discover something new? Do you consider yourself as a permanent crew member, or this was just a unique turning point experience for you? For the next 5 years, I consider developing myself in this direction. It won't be only this type of round-the-world trips, this can be any ship where the IT officer would be needed. And with further digitalization and automation, this job becomes more and more relevant. Moreover, I continue my studies and also develop my skills as an electrician. Now nobody knows when this tourism sphere will be back to normal, so I suggest that 6 more months or even a year I'll need to stay at home. You were lucky enough to come back home before the pandemic has started to evolve in China. Well, we were not thinking that this will really affect us, and we considered that as a local Chinese problem. And then, when several ports of China became cancelled, we expected China to be the only country we'd have been avoiding. When we were in Japan, people told us that they heard about this virus, but there were no significant measures undertaken. Then when I was in Vietnam, in February, everything was still functioning without any restrictions, but people were wearing masks at least. I'm very glad you've shared with me your thoughts and your experience, because I really think that you had a wonderful journey and not so many people really get this chance to visit so many countries and continents during such a short period of time. You were working at the same company so many years and you suddenly changed it for a sea. When I learned about that, I was very happy that you made this step forward. Thank you very much for this interview and I really wish you luck. You know, you are one of those persons I became inspired by when I learned that you were traveling around the US and making presentations of some product to the people who were English native speakers. Of course I realized that you've made a huge way towards it, but I was looking at you and I was looking at another mate who put everything aside and just left. So thank you, Alex, for inviting me and for the opportunity to share my story. You know, without overstating it, I can say that I've changed positively and I like these changes. Thank you for this interview. To you. You are welcome. This was a new episode of Ukrainian Unleashed podcast. Thanks for being here with me. I also would love to thank Purple Planet for lovely musical compositions used in this episode. I'd really appreciate your comments, reactions and subscription to our podcast channels in your favorite podcast app. and we did our best to extend our presence all over the web. You may find us on Spotify, Radio Public, Pocket Casts, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Google Play Music, and also Deezer, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Overcast, Castbox, Player FM, Podknife, and of course, check our pages in social media. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram accounts with fresh updates are waiting for you. New episodes coming up weekly on Mondays. Stay tuned and safe.